not only do we help the quality, but also we help the quantity. Because when we put any plant into stress, it starts to back off from pushing its energy into growing its product, and it goes into survival mode. And so when it gets really, really hot, that plant starts to shut down. It says, man, this is too hot. I'm going to just quit working so hard. I'm going to have to take it a little easy here so I can survive this heat. And so it quits working quite so hard to feed its tubers or feed its fruit or whatever it is that it's pumping the energy to as far as the crop that we're going to be harvesting. In the case of turf, what it does is it cuts back, says, this weather's getting so hot, I think I'm just going to go dormant. So we have to trick grass into thinking like it isn't that hot. The cool season grasses, that's not true for the hot season grasses, but for the cool season grasses, they just like to go dormant. They say, well, it's getting so hot, it's time for me to take a break. And they just kind of go into summer hibernation. Well, we continue to water those plants and keep the environment moist enough and cool enough so they do not do that. And obviously on sports fields, golf courses, home lawns, whatever, that's critical. Now if we're growing grass for seed, different story. See, we let it go to seed, we let it go into that dormant cycle, harvest the seed. Then come fall, pick it back up, start irrigating it and kick it in the rear and get it growing again. So it'll go through another cycle and do that all over again. So we let it really push hard. We don't mow it. We just let it grow, go to seed, maximize seed production, and then pull the water off of it. And just let it stress out to dormancy so that we can harvest. It's got to dry up to harvest. We go in harvest. After the harvest, then we can go back in, kick the water to it, brings it out of dormancy, and we start growing the next year's crop of seed. So depending on what we're trying to accomplish can depend on how we're going to deal with the watering process. The procedure that you go about doing cooling. We talked about it for turf. You know, it's usually one pass across that area for the day, and you're usually good in the Northwest. What if we're in a vineyard or an orchard? Well, that's a little different story. Quality comes into effect, like wine grapes. If it gets too hot in a vineyard, you start to have some bad reactions occurring in the wine grapes, which reduces their overall quality. And of course, that's ultimate. In a wine grape, quality is everything. You can never make great wine out of an average grape. You can make average wine out of a great grape, but you can never make great wine out of an average grape. You got to have great grapes to make great wine. And then you got to know what to do with those great grapes once you get them to make that great wine. And that's the premium wines. And you see in this valley, Walla Walla Valley, its wine industry is premised entirely on high quality. Upscale, the upper end dollar value bottle of wine. I mean, they want to sell something for $15 a bottle, not $5 a bottle. That means you got to have premium grapes and then you got to treat them right. Well, the first trick is to get a premium grape. We can get a premium grape because in this country we can totally control the climate around that grape. We can water it exactly when we want to water it. We can dry it out whenever we want to dry it out. We can cool it whenever we need to cool it. We can frost protect to keep it from losing the set to begin with at the beginning of the year. So we can really almost every year get a pretty good grape. Some years we even get a greater grape. Now the years we get great grapes are like this year. Really hot summer. Really hot summers give you the best wine grapes. Of course, it's the hardest on everything else, but boy does it give you great wine grapes. Lots of sugar in those grapes. Man, they really have the sugar. They had a lot of heat units, and they really produce some high sugar content, high quality wine. But also we had to make sure they didn't get too hot in the process on certain days, so that some of the more unfavorable flavors don't develop within those grapes. So there might be a critical temperature of, say, 96 degrees. So when it gets to 94 degrees, it triggers the cooling system and it starts cooling. It can all be done automated off of a weather station, or off simply putting in a wet bulb thermometer and having it tell us when to start the process. And it say at 94 degrees, it say, hey, it's time to start cooling. Automatically the cooling cycles will start. Across the field, here they go. And they'll keep going until the temperature drops to the appropriate outside temperature for the crop. So it drops back below 96 degrees, maybe down to 94, 93 degrees. It'll turn itself back off. Or you can do it by somebody monitoring, so it isn't always going to be totally automated. So you can simply do it by monitoring the temperature. And somebody's watching that thermometer every minute almost. You'd be sitting in the office working on the secretary could be sitting in the office just as she's answering the phone and doing the other daily routine work. Part of her job is every few minutes look at the thermometer and see where it's at. And when it hits critical stage, she makes the phone call. Kick on the water and away you go. So it can be that unscientific, or it can be totally controlled. The controller on the blocks can have a thermometer built into it with a sensor that when it hits a given degrees, it automatically starts the cycling, and away you go. Whether it's orchard, vineyard, whatever it is.